My wife got pregnant by our pastor, then demanded alimony with a smile. So I stayed silent, documented everything, then dropped one bomb that ended her life as she knew it. Hi, I'm Jason. And if you've ever had your life flipped upside down by the one person you trusted most, buckle in. This story isn't about revenge for the sake of drama. It's about keeping receipts, playing the long game, and making sure betrayal doesn't get the final word. My wife, let's call her Megan, and I were married for 5 years. We met in college back in Michigan. I was busting my tail finishing a computer engineering degree while she was studying behavioral psychology. From the start, we clicked. She had this sharp wit, big heart, and a hustle that matched mine. After we graduated in 2011, I dove headfirst into building my own app development business. Those early years, chaos. I barely slept, money was tight, and clients flaked all the time, but Megan had my back. She'd sit with me late into the night, bringing coffee, giving pep talks, telling me I was going to make it. And when she offered to put her counseling career on hold to support me full-time, I thought, this woman believes in me. I didn't question it. I was just grateful, but now, looking back, I should have seen the warning signs for what they were. Strategic positioning, not sacrifice. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know where you're watching from and what time it is where you are. I love seeing how far these stories travel. Now, back to it. By 2015, things were looking good. The business was finally bringing in real revenue, so we moved into a solid place in a nice suburb outside Columbus, Ohio. Megan got really involved in a local church. First Hillside Baptist, she went all in. Bible studies, women's groups, charity drives. Her Instagram became all verses and quotes about marriage, humility, God's plan, and whatnot. On the surface, everything looked rock solid. But by year 5, something shifted. It started with little things. She stopped asking about my day. Our conversations felt like business meetings, efficient, emotionless. She'd give short answers about her day and rush to change the subject. Then she got real curious about our finances. At first I appreciated the interest. Let's plan for the future, she said, but then I caught her snapping pics of account statements, snooping in my office files when she thought I was asleep. Just organizing, she said. I played along, but I took mental notes. Then came the weird schedule changes, late nights, overnight retreats, new clothes that somehow never made it into our laundry. I'd ask simple questions like, how was the retreat? And she'd give me vague answers. One time she said she spilled wine on her shirt and had to change clothes. We don't even drink. The final straw? Her phone habits. Passwords changed. She'd grab her phone if I even looked in its direction. Then I found a hotel receipt in her purse. 1 room, 1 night, a city she claimed she'd never even been to. I still tried to convince myself I was overthinking it. Until one night she came home late with her hair slightly messy and perfume that didn't smell like anything she owned. Bible study ran long, she mumbled. I made a joke about her smelling like a men's cologne aisle. That's when she snapped. Maybe if you were around more, you'd know what's going on in my life. I didn't argue. I just listened. Because that's what you do when you're preparing for war. I started checking our credit card statements, tracking her location history through her iPad, and wouldn't you know it, every Monday and Wednesday afternoon, she spent exactly 2 hours at the same apartment complex 30 minutes across town. One Wednesday I left the office early, parked across from that complex. Watched her pull up, then 10 minutes later, a tall guy in gym clothes and a chain with a cross around his neck pulled in beside her. They went inside together. I took pictures, waited 3 hours, more pictures. Later that week, when she left her phone unattended during a shower, I dug in. His name was Adam. Associate pastor at her church, married. Texts, pictures, plans. She told him she was going to leave me soon, said she'd milk alimony. He's too dumb to see it coming, she wrote. That hurt more than the cheating. This wasn't a fling, it was a calculated hit. She was planning her escape, setting me up to fund her exit while starting over with another man. She wanted a golden parachute. That's when I decided she was leaving with nothing. I met with my CPA after hours. I'm thinking of restructuring, I told him. Started paying down loans, prepaying the lease, cutting my visible income. I kept all my moves legal but strategic. I moved money to a different bank under my name only. Everything documented, all above board, no funny business, just good old asset protection. Then, she lit the match herself. October 2016. I came home and found her waiting on the couch, this smug little smirk on her face. "Jason," she said, "I'm pregnant, but it's not yours." Just like that. No emotion, no shame. I've been seeing someone else. I want a divorce. My heart was pounding, but my face didn't flinch. I nodded slowly. I see. She wasn't ready for that. She expected a meltdown, maybe even begging. Instead, I stayed calm. She went on about how she'd given up her career for me, how I owed her alimony, how Adam and she deserved a fresh start, and I was going to pay for it. I locked eyes with her. "Mondays and Wednesdays, huh? Same apartment, same hours. You really thought I wouldn't know?" She froze, her face drained. I leaned back on the couch and smiled. "Hope Adam's congregation enjoys your Bible study outfits." Now she was panicking. "You can't prove anything." "Oh, Lisa, sorry, Megan, please, you made it too easy." She tried to recover. "The law's on my side." "Then I guess we'll both see how this plays out." She moved out 2 days later, filed for divorce the next week, cited irreconcilable differences. I let her think she was winning. Meanwhile, I was loading the legal cannon. The first 3 lawyers I met with didn't give me much hope. Ohio's a no-fault divorce state. That means it doesn't matter who cheated, who lied, who blew up the marriage. As far as the court's concerned, it's all the same. "You'll probably have to pay alimony," one of them shrugged. "If she supported your business, she doesn't work, she's pregnant, it won't look good for her." But I kept digging until I found someone who didn't just parrot the law. His name was Rick. He was blunt, borderline cynical, but he didn't sugarcoat anything. "You're not going to walk out clean," he said. "But if what you're saying is true, you might be able to minimize the damage." I showed Rick the financials. He studied the statements, nodding. "Okay, you've already reduced your reported income significantly. That'll help. But the court will still consider her role in supporting the marriage." Then I dropped the bombshell. Photos, texts, the recording of her laughing about screwing me over. "This might not help in court," he said, "but it's powerful in the court of public opinion. What do you want to do with it?" That's when the idea came together. Her church, the very place she used to boost her image and build her second life, was going to be her downfall. I didn't need a courtroom battle. I just needed the truth in the right hands. But I didn't rush it. Instead, I played the role of the calm, cooperative ex-husband. Polite, responsive. I even offered to take care of a few bills while the divorce was pending. Let her believe I was broken and blind. Court day came in December. Megan arrived in a beige turtleneck and long skirt, like she was headed to a funeral. Her lawyer spun the usual narrative. She gave up her career, supported his dream, helped him build his business, and now she's left without stability or income. Then it was Rick's turn. "We're not contesting the divorce," Rick said plainly, "but we do ask the court to consider the full context." He laid out the facts with surgical precision. Her current living situation with another man. The pregnancy confirmed not to be mine. The text messages planning the financial ambush. Megan's lawyer jumped in. "Your Honor, Ohio is a no-fault state. These personal details, while unfortunate, are irrelevant to alimony decisions." The judge didn't even blink. "Understood, the law is clear." And just like that, it was done. $4,800, 0 cents a month, 5 years, or until she remarried, which wasn't likely anymore. Megan gave me this smug little smile as we left the courtroom. Then, right in front of the courthouse, she called Adam on speakerphone. "We did it," she giggled. "He has to pay." I said nothing, just filed that moment in my mental folder titled Receipts. The next week, I mailed a package, neatly labeled, respectfully addressed, to the Board of Elders at First Hillside Baptist. Inside, every photo, every screenshot, a cover letter written in the most professional tone I could manage. As a former member of your community and a concerned citizen, I believe it's important that leadership reflects the values your church promotes. I even sent a digital version to the head pastor just to be thorough. Then I waited. Sunday morning, I got a text from one of our old mutual friends at church. Dude, what? Did you? Turns out the pastor called an emergency elder meeting before the service even began. Megan showed up like nothing was wrong, left in tears before the sermon even started. She called me that night screaming. You destroyed me, she yelled. They kicked me off every committee. My dad won't even speak to me. Click, blocked. Then the dominoes started falling. The Christian school where she volunteered temporarily suspended her involvement. Her mom stopped posting family photos online. Her dad took a break from elder duties. Adam? He started ghosting her within a week. Apparently being publicly labeled the pastor's pregnant mistress wasn't great for his career path. By the following month, she was out of his apartment and sleeping at her parents' house, until even they couldn't take the heat and told her to figure something else out. And I kept sending those checks. Like clockwork. No late payments, no snide comments, just business. Because that's what this was now. Business. She left voicemails. Angry, desperate, then quiet and pitiful. One of them said, "You win. I hope you're happy." I didn't even listen to the whole thing. About 5 weeks after the church blow-up, I got a message from our old neighbor. Pretty sure Megan's sleeping in her car. Seen her parked overnight behind the Walgreens off Maple Street. I didn't respond, but I drove by later just to see. There she was, head down, scrolling her phone, car packed with clothes and blankets. The next day she called. I lost my job, she said flatly. That's rough, I replied. The baby's due in 3 months. I've applied everywhere. No one wants to hire a pregnant woman with a bad rep. Sounds like you need a better strategy, I said. I'm living in my car. Please, Jason. I don't have anywhere else to go. I gave you $4,800.00 this month. That's not nothing. She started crying. You don't understand. Rent, car, groceries. I can't do it. Please, just for a few days, let me stay at the house. It's not your house anymore, I said coldly. That chapter's closed. Then I hung up. And I meant it. But her call gave me an idea. The final move. A few days later, I rang her up. Look, I said casually, I'm expanding the business, looking to relocate to Portland or maybe even out of the country, and my new lawyer's talking about reopening the Alimony case. Fraud, misrepresentation. You lied on financial disclosures, too. What are you talking about? She asked, her voice tense. I'm saying I'm tired of the monthly payments. I'd rather close this out now. One lump sum. You sign a release. I'm free. You're funded. Clean break. She paused. How much? $100,000.00. Cash, tax-free. You sign a full waiver. I never hear from you again. Silence. My lawyer said, Your lawyer isn't sleeping in a Walgreens parking lot, I interrupted. You have 24 hours. After that, I start the challenge, and during litigation, I'm not obligated to pay a dime. 3 hours later, she called back. I'll take it. The next morning, Megan showed up at my lawyer's office wearing the same wrinkled hoodie I'd seen through her car window. Her hair was greasy, her eyes hollow, and she looked like she hadn't slept in a week. I was already seated with my attorney, the paperwork spread out on the conference table. It was all simple and legally airtight. A full release of any future alimony claims in exchange for a one-time tax-free payment of $100,000.00. A clean break. No more checks, no more contact, no more leverage. I had the cashier's check in a white envelope with her name on it, just waiting on the dotted line. Megan didn't ask many questions. She barely skimmed the agreement. Her hands trembled as she signed each page. When it was done, my lawyer slid the envelope across the table. She took it without a word. So? That's it? She asked, her voice small and brittle. We're really done? I nodded. Completely. I don't want to hear from you again, Megan. This is it. She hesitated, like she wanted to say something else, maybe to apologize, maybe to explain, but nothing came out. She just stood up, clutched the envelope to her chest like a life vest, and walked out the door. As soon as it shut behind her, my lawyer let out a long breath and shook his head. "You know," he said, "most guys in your position wouldn't have given her a penny." I shrugged. "I didn't give her anything. I bought peace of mind. And I meant it. That monthly payment wasn't crushing me financially, but every check was a monthly reminder of the betrayal. Now, that chapter was sealed. I was free to move forward without strings or shadows. I wasn't interested in revenge anymore. I just wanted to live, build, breathe. 7 months later, I saw her again. It was completely random. I'd stopped at a gas station outside Dayton while on a short road trip with the woman I'd been dating for a few months, Samantha. She ran her own design studio and didn't take crap from anyone. We were grabbing drinks and snacks, and as I stepped out of my car, I spotted Megan at the pump across from mine. She was driving an old Nissan now, something beat up and rattling. She looked rough. Older. Worn. Still pregnant. Or maybe pregnant again. I didn't ask. I didn't care. She spotted me and froze. I nodded politely, then kept pumping gas, but she walked over hesitantly. "Hey, Jason," I glanced at her. "Megan." She looked like she didn't know what to do with her hands. "How are you?" "Doing well," I said simply. "Business is good, life's good." She nodded, eyes flicking down to the ground. That's good to hear." There was an awkward pause before she blurted out, "The money's gone." I raised an eyebrow. "I used it to pay off debt," she said almost defensively. "Credit card, stuff from the divorce. Then rent, groceries, the car." Her voice trailed off. "I thought it would last longer." I didn't say anything. "Not my problem. I've been trying to find work," she continued, like she needed to justify herself. "But no one wants to hire me. My degree's old. I don't have any recent experience. The counseling boards don't take me seriously anymore, not after everything with the church." Still, I remained silent. She looked up at me with tears in her eyes. "I'm sorry, Jason. For everything. I really am." I stared at her for a long second. Honestly, seeing her like that didn't bring the satisfaction I thought it would. There was no victory lap, no high five from the universe. It just felt done. A chapter I'd already closed. "Too little, too late," I said quietly. She sniffed. "I thought I could have it all," she whispered. "I was wrong." I nodded, tossed the gas nozzle back into the pump, and walked to my car without another word. She didn't follow. I haven't seen her since. Life moved on. And honestly, it moved up. Samantha and I took things slow. We moved in together after about 6 months, and while I'm not rushing into marriage again, I can actually picture it this time. She's grounded, no drama, just straight talk, mutual respect, and actual partnership. My business has exploded in the best way possible. We've expanded into 3 new states, brought on new developers, and I finally get to work on the business, not just in it. I started doing things I never had time for before. Got my scuba diving certification, started piano lessons, even hiked Zion National Park last fall. But in a town this size, word still travels. Turns out Megan had the baby. A boy. Adam, the associate pastor, is the biological father, but he's not stepping up. He relocated to Georgia, and from what I've heard, he's months behind on child support. Megan tried restarting her career, but it hasn't worked out. The Christian schools won't touch her, and the public schools need recent experience she doesn't have. She's working a call center job now, barely scraping by. Her parents eventually forgave her, I guess, but the dynamic isn't the same. They help with the baby occasionally, but never miss a chance to remind her about life choices and God's consequences. Her sister postponed her wedding after the church fallout and never really let Megan back in the inner circle. Megan tried going back to First Hillside Baptist just to attend, not lead, but they let her know she could sit in the back quietly. No leadership, no volunteering, no voice. Her days of running women's groups and giving marriage advice are long gone. I know all this because people love to talk, and they always think I'll want updates, but truthfully, I don't. I'm not bitter, I'm not gloating. I just don't care anymore. I gave her a shot at a clean exit, and she blew it. She traded a real partnership for a fantasy that collapsed in less than a year. Meanwhile, I've built something better. A life with real joy, real peace, and people who actually add value, not just take it. And yeah, I have my scars, but they don't sting anymore. They're just reminders, proof that I survived. I didn't set out to destroy Megan. That's the part people get wrong when they hear the story. They think this was some kind of elaborate revenge fantasy where I crushed her just to make myself feel better. But it wasn't about that. It was about protecting myself. About making sure that someone who betrayed me so deeply didn't walk away with both my money and the narrative. See, Megan was never planning a clean break. She was planning a takeover. She wanted the money, the social status, and the control. She thought I'd fund her new life with Adam while quietly disappearing into the background. But she underestimated two things: how far ahead I was willing to think, and how quickly a house of lies collapses once someone pulls the first brick. What happened to her afterward wasn't because I made a single phone call or threatened legal action. It was the natural fallout of living a double life in a tightly woven community. Once the mask slipped, people turned. Not because I told them to, but because they saw who she really was and couldn't unsee it. The woman who once stood at the pulpit talking about forgiveness and family values was now pregnant by the associate pastor, divorced, unemployed, and shunned by the same church she once helped lead. I never paraded her downfall, never spoke publicly about what she did. I let her actions speak for themselves. That's what hit the hardest. Silence, letting her stew in the consequences while I kept building my life. I made a decision early on that I wouldn't chase vengeance. I'd just stop her from taking more than she already had, and once that was done, I focused on healing, on growing, on getting back to the version of myself I had almost lost in the chaos. Samantha, my girlfriend, has been a big part of that. She's the kind of person who doesn't care about appearances, who sees through BS in 5 seconds flat. She knew something was up the moment we started dating. Sensed the walls I'd built after the divorce, the way I hesitated when she asked about my past. But she didn't push. She waited, and over time, I told her everything. Not all at once, but piece by piece. She listened, and instead of judging, she just nodded and said, "You made it through. That's what matters. We've built something strong, rooted in honesty, not perfection. We split bills, make plans together, and talk through everything, even the small stuff. It's not flashy. It's real." And I didn't realize how badly I needed real until I finally had it. Still, I'd be lying if I said Megan never crosses my mind. Not in a wistful or regretful way, just occasionally, when I pass by the church or hear a story about someone going through a similar mess. It's not about missing her. It's about remembering how far I've come. There was a time when I thought my life was over, when I thought losing her meant losing everything. But it wasn't the end. It was the reset I didn't know I needed. I've had friends reach out, quietly admitting they've been through something similar. Some were cheated on, others were manipulated, used, or blindsided by someone they trusted. They asked me how I stayed calm, how I planned so precisely, how I didn't crack under pressure. The answer? I didn't always stay calm. I had nights where I stared at the ceiling until sunrise. I had moments where I almost sent a text I'd regret or made a call I knew would escalate things. But I reminded myself constantly, rage is loud, but strategy is quiet. You don't win by yelling, you win by preparing, documenting, moving in silence until the timing is right. And that's the advice I always give to people going through betrayal. Document everything. Save the texts, screenshot the receipts. Don't lash out, observe, don't react, strategize. Your power isn't in your pain, it's in your patience. And when the time comes to act, you'll be glad you waited, because by then your move won't be emotional, it'll be undeniable. That $100,000 0 cents buyout? People asked me why I gave her anything. The truth is, it was a calculated investment. I knew she'd burn through it fast. Knew she wasn't financially responsible enough to stretch it long term, and once it was gone, so was her leverage. No more alimony, no more monthly reminders, no more threats of dragging me back to court. She got a taste of freedom, but she didn't know how to hold on to it. That was never my problem to solve. I gave her the choice. Dignity or desperation. She picked desperation disguised as victory. And now? I'm finally doing the things I put off for years. Piano lessons twice a week. Hiking trips every other month. I'm mentoring 2 young developers who remind me of myself when I first started. Hungry, driven, idealistic. I get to pass on what I've learned, not just about business, but about life, about resilience, about knowing your worth even when someone else tries to bury it. Every now and then, someone from Megan's past reaches out. An old friend, a mutual acquaintance. They want the full story. I don't give it to them. I just say, it didn't work out, but I'm in a better place now. That's enough. I don't need to defend myself anymore. The truth already did the job. And Megan? Well, she's still around, still scraping by, trying to rebuild something out of the ashes she created. I don't wish her harm, but I also don't wish her well. She made her bed. Now she gets to lie in it. Alone. It's strange how quickly life can pivot from chaos to clarity. One minute you're fighting to keep your world from collapsing, and the next you're standing in the rubble, realizing you didn't need most of it anyway. That's what the aftermath of Megan's betrayal taught me. The marriage, the image, the routines. It was all smoke and mirrors. What mattered was what I built when I stopped pretending everything was fine. It wasn't the loss that defined me. It was what I did after. Now, almost 2 years out from the divorce, I'm in a place I never thought I'd be. Calm, focused, optimistic. My business continues to thrive, not because I'm grinding 80 hours a week anymore, but because I learned how to work smarter. I've built systems, hired talent I trust, and given myself room to breathe. I still take on projects I care about, but I'm no longer chasing every dollar out of fear I'll lose it all. That desperation is gone. Samantha and I are talking about buying a place together. No rush, no pressure, just 2 adults building something on their terms. She knows everything about what happened. I laid it all out early in the relationship, not to scare her off, but because I didn't want to build anything new on half-truths. Her response? You're not the guy that got cheated on, you're the guy that didn't let it break him. That stuck with me. I've also reconnected with a few old friends, people I drifted away from during my marriage because Megan didn't vibe with them. Turns out they're still the same solid, loyal people they always were. I was the one who went MIA. It's been healing to rebuild those friendships, to admit I made mistakes too, not just in trusting the wrong person, but in shutting out the right one. Megan, from what I hear, is still in town, still bouncing between low-paying jobs. The last update I got was that she'd moved into a shared rental with 2 other single moms. The church hasn't let her back into any leadership roles and likely never will. Adam disappeared completely. No one even knows where he's preaching now, if he's preaching at all. Their love story, the one she sacrificed everything for, evaporated the moment it became inconvenient. Every now and then someone asks me if I ever think about helping her, if I feel guilty about how everything ended. The answer is simple: no. Megan wasn't a victim of some tragic accident. She made 1,000 small, selfish choices that led her exactly where she is. I didn't ruin her. She gambled and lost. I just refused to keep playing the game. Do I think I went too far by exposing her to the church? Maybe. But here's the thing. She built that pedestal. She used that community to build her image, to lie with a halo over her head. All I did was show the truth. I didn't fabricate anything. I didn't embellish. I handed people the facts and let them decide. Her downfall wasn't orchestrated by me. It was a house of cards falling the moment I stopped holding it up. If you're watching this and you've been through something similar, I hope you hear this clearly. You're not crazy. You're not weak. And you don't have to scream to be heard. Sometimes the smartest thing you can do is stay quiet, gather your facts, and wait for the right moment. That's not cowardice. That's control. Revenge isn't always about destruction. Sometimes it's about subtraction, removing the people who drain you, removing the stories that no longer serve you, and reclaiming the peace they tried to steal. That's the real win. Not watching someone crash, but knowing you're no longer in the wreckage. So what's next for me? I don't know exactly. And honestly, that feels good. For the first time in a long time, I'm not trying to prove anything. Not to Megan, not to anyone. I'm just living, traveling, exploring new interests. I recently picked up photography and started volunteering at a local coding boot camp for underserved teens. It feels good to pour into something without fear of being drained. Megan is just a chapter now, one I've read, understood, and closed. She's not the villain in my story. She's just someone who didn't know how to be honest, not even with herself. I don't need her to suffer. I just needed her to stop having access to me. And now, she doesn't. And if you're wondering whether I'd do it all the same way again, probably not. Not because I regret the outcome, but because I know now how much energy it took to orchestrate her exit. Next time, I'd walk away sooner. I'd recognize the signs. I'd believe my gut. But I don't hate the version of me that didn't know better. He survived. He figured it out. And he made something better out of the mess. So here's my final takeaway for anyone still watching. Betrayal doesn't have to define you. It can refine you, sharpen your instincts, clarify your values, and lead you to the kind of life you actually want. But only if you're willing to let go of the need to win and start focusing on the need to heal. If you've made it this far, thanks for riding this journey with me, and I'd love to hear from you. What would you have done in my shoes? Would you have confronted her head-on or played it quiet like I did? Drop your story or thoughts in the comments. Let's talk. And if you found this story powerful, give it a like or share it with someone who might need to hear it. Because you never know, your story might help someone else take back their power too.